satisfied with doing the least I can do. All I know is how to be the one who goes hard, working to see it all through.
Hey kids, and welcome back to Super Kids Church. We hope you have had a fantastic week as we have been getting ready for launch together all month long this September. It has been so much fun. It has been so fun talking about astronauts and getting ready and having initiative, right? And we've been going where no one has ever gone before, doing what no one wants to do in order to get ready and take care of things so that everything can work and go smoothly, right? I mean, we've been talking about ready to launch, getting ready for school, right? Getting ready for school in the mornings, getting ready to do what God asks us to do, and we've been talking about it all month long. But here's the cool thing. We don't have to just sit there and wait for things to happen. That's why we've been talking about initiative. We don't have to sit there and wait for things to happen. We can actually take initiative and help with things that are around us, see what needs to be done, right? We can show initiative by how we speak, how we act, how we treat others, right? Last week we talked about Nehemiah and how the problem wasn't the big problem of the wall, but the little problem of how we treated each other, right? And all of that takes initiative. And when we take initiative and help each other and become a solution, right? We can see God do amazing and mighty things in our lives, right? Now, we've been using this word initiative. So what does initiative mean? Initiative means seeing what needs to be done and doing it, right? So that means if we see there's something that needs to be done, we go ahead and do it. If we see dishes in the sink, maybe we do them before we're asked to do them. Or we see that our toy room is dirty, we go ahead and clean it before we're asked to clean it, right? We see what needs to be done and we do it. But we also see the needs around us too, right? Maybe somebody is in the lunchroom sitting all by themselves and looking sad. Be like the king with Nehemiah and see that they're sad and saying, hey, be a friend to them, saying, hey, how can I help you? That's seeing a need and doing something about it too, right? Now, all month long, we've also been talking about our memory verse, which can be found in Colossians 3:23a, and it reads, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. Now, all of these things we've been talking about seeing a need and then doing something about it, are not always something we want to do, okay? I don't want to clean the toy room. I don't want to clean the dishes. I don't want to clean the laundry. I don't want to pick up my laundry. But when we do things like that, we're doing them for the Lord, both the little things and the big things, so that we're doing it with a purpose, as if God asked us to do it. Because that's what he's doing. He's asking us to see the need and us to fulfill the need, right? So this whole month we've been talking about that. You've got 2 weeks left to memorize that, this week and next week. And send it to Miss Liv so she can write it down for Life Book so you can enjoy the Kids Church store when we return in person. You don't want to miss out on that. So keep working on your memory verse this week. And don't forget to send it to Miss Liv. Now, every Kids Church, we have a Pause Miss Liv moment. And our Pause Miss Liv moment is going to be a game. All right? Now, you can go against the clock or you can go against siblings, but it's going to be called Space Dust. Now, with Space Dust, what you're going to need is you're going to need a cup, preferably plastic, not glass, not anything that can break. Plastic cup. All right? And you're going to need something small. Okay, like confetti or rice or beans or something of that nature. So ask a parent to help you. My suggestion is not glitter unless you're going to be outside, because glitter can get everywhere. Okay, but something small, probably more like rice or beans or something like that. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to get some of those particles, we'll call them. It's like dust that's in space, right? I mean, we know that Saturn's rings are made of meteors, right? But they're also made of dust. And what you're going to do is you're going to set up a course, okay? You're going to have a beginning and an end line, all right? What you're going to do is you're going to race across this course, keeping all of your space dust on your head in your cup. What? all right? And you're gonna race to the other end. Now you have to be delicate, but fast all at the same time. It's gonna be a little bit difficult, but I wanna see if you're gonna be able to do it. Now you can race against the clock and see if you can get across in 1 minute. But if you drop it, you gotta pick up your pieces, put them back in your cup, go to the beginning and try again, all right? And see if you can get it done under a minute. Or maybe you're going against a sibling or a family member. Well, then just see who can get there the fastest. But don't forget, if your cup drops, you gotta put it all back in, go back to the beginning and try again. It might be a little difficult, which is why I'm saying you should probably do some rice or beans because they're a little bit easier to pick up at the end. That's why probably your small particles should not be glitter, okay? All right, so you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna get materials together and have some fun playing this game. If you can't play it right now, that's okay. Miss Liv will remind you of it at the end of Kids Church today, and you can play with your family sometime this week. Okay, you ready for Pause Miss Liv? In 3, 2, 1, pause Miss Liv. We hope you had fun with your space dust and traveling across and back and trying to get it all done and making sure you get there, right? And if you didn't go back to the start line, that's okay. That's an added bonus for at the end to do this week and see if you can do it that way. But space dust. Why would we be talking about space dust today? Well, we were talking about space dust because there is such a thing as space dust, but it's not necessarily about that we're talking about. Today we're going to be talking about focus. Now, in order to get from one end to the other, you needed to focus on both what was on your head as well as the path you were taking, right? If you did this activity outside, there might be a hole in the ground. You did this activity inside, there might be a ball or a toy in the way. And you had to pay attention to what was in front of you, but you also had to pay attention to what was on your head, right? Because you had to balance and make sure that cup stayed there so you didn't have to, pick up all the pieces afterwards, right? So what we're talking about today, we're talking about focus and how that relates to initiative. Now, so far in initiative, we have talked about that we need to look for ways to make things right. That's what we talked about last week, right? And that's what I was talking about that person at the lunch table and seeing over things around you and see if you can make things right and treat each other better. And we also talked about don't wait for somebody else to do what needs to be done, right? That's taking initiative. So today we're talking about initiative in the sense of whether or not it needs focus. So Miss Liv's going to go get her Bible. You should go get yours, and we'll see you on the other side. Now, we are back, and we are going to be opening to Nehemiah 2, 4, and 6 today. All right, so we're going to be jumping around a little bit. Don't worry. The scriptures will be on the screen as normal, okay? But if you want to follow along, we're going to start in Nehemiah 2, okay? Now, so far, we have to do the backstory, right? So far, when Nehemiah, where have we been? So we know Nehemiah was in Babylon, and he was in exile, and he was the cupbearer, right? So he tested the king's drink to make sure there was no poison. So super trusting job, but scary at the same time, right? Because he could die any day. Kind of scary. But at the same time, the king trusted him beyond anything because if he was willing to drink the king's drink every single time, then he was trustworthy, right? Well, the king noticed that he was sad one day because Nehemiah got some sad news. And that was that the wall of Jerusalem, his homeland, had fallen, which means they could be attacked from outside nations. They could be attacked from robbers. They could be attacked from anybody because there was nothing to protect them. So he took initiative and wanted to go fix it. And the king took initiative and saw that Nehemiah was sad and asked him what was wrong. And when he found out, he blessed Nehemiah and sent him with everything he needed to go fix these walls. Now, they thought that the biggest problem was going to be people from the outside, but really their first problem came from within, right? And they weren't treating each other right. So Nehemiah took initiative and saw that the only problem wasn't the wall, it was how people were treating each other. And he talked to the officials and fixed what was wrong, right? So at this point, the Jewish people were living in Jerusalem. They're rebuilding the wall, all right? And they have solved their problem within. Well, the fact of the matter is there was still a problem on the outside of the wall too, right? Some other nations saw that they were rebuilding the wall, and they were like, we're not too happy about this, because if you can defend yourself, you might become my enemy. But at the same time, building the wall meant the Jewish people could defend themselves from any enemy that came to them. So at this point, we are building the wall. So we know that in building the wall, different families were taking different portions of the wall to build it faster, right? And each family had its own portion of wall. Now, while they were building the wall, there were two people who were not particularly happy about what was happening. And they were Sanballat and Tobiah. Now, these two men were not happy about this wall being built at all, okay? They were very upset. In fact, they wanted it to stop. And so, as the people were building the wall, they would mock them. They would mock Nehemiah. They would call them names. In fact, they tried to attack Nehemiah with words of discouragement. Okay? They tried to discourage him by saying, well, you know, the king wouldn't be happy with what you're doing. And, you know, it'd be better if you just didn't work on this. But you see, Nehemiah had a response. So let's look at Nehemiah's response in Nehemiah 2:20, and it reads, I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We his servants will start rebuilding, but as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim to historic right to it. So Nehemiah's like, you can sit there all you want, but this is my country, my town. We're going to build this wall because God blessed us. Now, I'm sure at this point, they're furious even further, right? Even further. So let's see what happens next in Nehemiah 4:2-3. It reads, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, what are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from whose heaps of rubble? Burned as they are? Tobiah the Ammonite, who was by his side, said, what they are building, even a fox climbing up to it could break down their walls of stone. So they just continued to mock. They were like, you are crazy. Crazy. Like, come on, stop this. And they were trying to get them to stop building this wall. They did not want it to happen. Well, the more they mocked, the more Nehemiah prayed, and the people continued to work. They weren't swayed by the mocking. So Sanballat and Tobiah then went to other nations. They were like, oh, we need to stop this now. So they go to other nations. So they went to other nations who were sad about this happening, and they tried to get them involved and say, hey, you need to attack these people because, like, this is not going to work. I mean, like, they are getting this done. All right? So as the other nations were beginning to look at this, Nehemiah then armed the people. He said, no, you know what? We're going to arm our people and make sure that they are safe. So they gave them spears and weapons in order to save them. And he posted guards in everywhere that he could, both overnight and during the day. And then he inspired them. He spoke to them. And he said this in Nehemiah 4:14. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome and fights for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives, and your homes. See, Nehemiah knew that these guys were going to keep going. And he was like, no, enough of this. We're going to arm our people, and we're going to pray, and we're going to tell them to keep building. So they continued to keep building. So they continued to keep building, and they continued building with weapons in hand and trumpets. In case anybody would come, they could blow the trumpet and tell everyone else that there was danger coming. And eventually, the wall finished being built. However, there were still problems. There were still gates that needed to be fixed. Remember, the gates had been burnt down, so we still need to fix the gates. So at this point, Sanballat and Tobiah are furious because they're so angry that the wall had got finished. In fact, then they sent a letter. So they sent a letter to Nehemiah, and they were like trying to draw him out and be sneaky about it. And they're trying to draw him out. Well, he said he wanted to meet Nehemiah, but Nehemiah knew that this was a trap. So he sent a letter back to him. And let's read what it says, all right? It's in Nehemiah 6:3, and it reads, so I sent messengers to them with this reply, I'm carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? You see, Nehemiah knew this was a trap, and he was like, no, I'm building. I am building. I can't go down there. And so he sent a letter back to them. Well, they then sent another letter, and another letter, and another letter, and then another letter. They sent 4 more letters to Nehemiah, trying to draw him out and threatening to tell the king that Nehemiah was doing wrong and wanted to be king himself. But we know that's not true. Nehemiah knew that wasn't true. And they kept trying to do these lies and trying to lure him out or trying to threaten him to stop what he was doing. But Nehemiah knew this was a lie. And let's see his response in 6:8. And it reads, I sent him this reply, nothing like what you were saying is happening. You are making it up out of your head. See, he knew that this was a lie. And he was like, nope. The king will see right through your lies. So, as a last-ditch effort, as the wall continued to build and the gates continued to be repaired, Sanballat hired somebody to make Nehemiah look bad. As a last-ditch effort, he hired somebody to be like a spy and to make him look bad. So they sent this man named Shemaiah to tell Nehemiah to hide because there were people coming to kill him because of what he was doing. And he sent to him and said, like, you need to hide. And that would look bad to the Jewish people because here's Nehemiah who's saying, stay strong, let's fight, let's build. And Nehemiah would go hide? That would be a problem, right? That wouldn't look strong or say that the Lord is in control. But Nehemiah said, no way, Jose. And they kept on building. And within 52 days, the entire wall was built. And I can only imagine Sanballat and Tobiah's reactions to this, right? Like, what? 52 days. 52 days. We're talking shy of 3 months. They built an entire wall around the city and secured their city and made it safe. But you see, where these guys, all 3 of these guys were focused, right? They were focused on a specific item, but only one of them understood the true meaning of our point today, which is to stay focused on what needs to be done. You see, Nehemiah was called to rebuild this wall, and he was obedient, and he took initiative, and he did what needed to be done to rebuild the wall. Now, Sanballat and Tobiah, they were super upset over this, right? And they were kind of focused too. They were focused on taking down Nehemiah, but that wasn't what God was trying to do. That wasn't what God was doing. But see, Nehemiah stayed focused and true to the job that God had called him to. Now, why was Nehemiah's focus more important and better than Sanballat and Tobiah's focus? The reason is his focus was on what God was calling him to do, and the others were trying to tear him down, right? Sometimes we can get focused on the wrong things. We need to stay focused on the right things, on the things that are true, the things that are of God, the things that he's calling us to, right? And Nehemiah stayed focused through it all. He didn't get distracted by possibly getting killed. He didn't get distracted by the attacks coming. He didn't get distracted by all these letters and trying to lure him out to talk. He didn't get distracted by the threats to go to the king. He didn't get distracted by threats. He stayed focused on what God had him to do. Now, how did he stay focused? Every time he had a response, his response always went back to God. You see, he knew that God called him to do it, which means he trusted that God was going to bring him through it. See, in order to stay focused on what needs to be done, we need to understand that God called us to it and he's going to get us through it. We can stay focused through something, even through threats, even through distractions, if we know that God has called us and he will get us through it. And Nehemiah knew that God was going to get them through it. God was going to protect them. God was going to keep them safe. God was going to give them the materials they needed. God was going to give them the time that they needed in order to complete this wall. So he stayed focused and said, no, what you're saying is not true and it's not of God. So I'm going to keep going. Because let's be real, it's very easy to be distracted. Who here starts their homework but then gets distracted by the TV being on? Who here starts to clean up their playroom but then gets distracted by the toys? Like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this toy in forever. And you start playing with the toy instead. Who here starts cleaning something, right? And maybe learning or listening to somebody, and all of a sudden you start thinking about what you want to be doing, like that video game, or, oh, you know what, I want to get to that next level on that video game, or, oh, I'm going to be able to play a board game with grandma later. But we get distracted from listening and doing what we're doing. Distractions are going to come from all over, and sometimes they're going to come as what seems like an attack, right? They're going to be threats, but sometimes those distractions are just like the letters that they were sending, like, hey, how about you come write this letter instead of, building that wall? How about you come over and talk to us instead of, building that wall? And these distractions are going to come from all over. But we need to stay focused on what God is calling us to do. Whether that focus is to talk to that person in the lunchroom, but then you see your best friend and your best friend's like, hey! You'll be like, hey, how about we sit with this person? Or, hey, I'm going to go sit with so-and-so today. Or when we're doing our homework and we get distracted by TV, maybe we get up and go in a different room to do our homework. What? Or if we're playing with a toy and we get distracted, right? Let's take it back and say, whoa, wait, I'm being distracted. Let me finish cleaning and then play with the toy. Maybe put the toy aside so that you can go play with it later after the rest of the project is done. And all of those things are how Nehemiah took on this project, and he stayed focused and continued on and did not get distracted by the left or the right or the people around him or the threats that were coming in. And God blessed him, and they finished the wall in 52 days. That's less than 3 months, guys. It's crazy to build that big of a wall in 52 days. So while we're doing this and we're talking about initiative and seeing what needs to be done, the second part is doing it. But in order to do it, we need to not be distracted. We need to follow through and finish. And that's what Nehemiah did. He followed through and continued to inspire the people to follow through and finish the wall, no matter what was coming against him. And God protected him, and God helped him focus. Because the fact of the matter is, we need to stay focused. We can ask God for help with that focus as well. Which brings us to what you can do this week. Well, this week we are going to be focusing on focus, right? And focusing together. So we can first ask God for some help with some focus, right? Like if we hate homework, we can ask God to help us focus on homework a little bit better. If we don't want to clean our room, we can ask God to help us focus on cleaning our room, right? And ask God for this focus each and every day. While we're focusing all week and continuing to do that, let's have some games that help us focus, right? So the first game you can do is the game that we did called Space Dust at the beginning, where you put some small items in a plastic cup and you try to go across a path. Maybe you can make it even harder and put some obstacles in your way. See how that goes this week, all right? But try to continue to focus on that. Some other fun things are our asteroid ball, and you can try to throw our asteroids into the black hole and maybe shoot some hoops. You can make some asteroids by crumpling up some paper or crumpling up some tin foil, and get a trash can and try to shoot some hoops and get those asteroids into the trash can. And if you start hitting them one, change the position of the trash can and see if you can focus on a different way to shoot those asteroids into a trash can. And there's this other game, and it's called Brick Sword Message, and it's going to remind us of our Bible story today, right? Because they were building with some bricks, there were lots of messages going back and forth, and the people were armed and ready with their sword. And it's basically rock, paper, scissors. But you can play some rock, paper, scissors this week with your family using Brick, Sword, and Message. All right, so what's going to happen is your brick is your rock, and your sword is your scissors, because swords cut. So instead of doing scissors, you're going to do sword instead. And message, just like paper, is your paper. And it runs the same way. So your message covers your rock or your brick, and your brick takes out your sword, but your sword takes out that message. All right? And use that this week when you're trying to settle disputes for rock, paper, scissors and stuff like that. And try brick, sword, message. And remember about Nehemiah while you're doing it this week, and how Nehemiah, looked to make things right, and he stayed focused on what needed to be done. So have some fun with that this week with your family as well, as we continue to focus on what God is calling us to do, and focus on what is in front of us, right? And choose to focus on our homework or cleaning or doing things that need to be done, right? Seeing what needs to be done, but staying focused till it is complete. Right? Doing it means doing it to completion. You can also go to lifechapelonline.com/kids, where you can get all of our downloadables. You can also get our YouTube playlist and our Parent Queue website for more fun crafts to do, as well as our 252 video to check out to see the Bible story in a different way, which is super fun. And you can also get any downloadable activities there as well. And we cannot wait to connect with you there. So that's lifechapelonline.com/kids. Now it is time to end for this week, and Miss Love's going to pray, but she can't wait to see you next week as we finish up ready to launch with our last lesson. Now, you saw Miss Liv use some Lego party hats. I don't know if you remember those from September last year, but they're going to play a role in next week's lesson. They were a little foreshadowing of next week, so you don't want to miss out what happens next week. It's going to be super fun. All right? So let's go ahead and pray, and I'll see you next week here. And you can go to lifechapelonline.com/kids for all of our other materials this week. All right, you ready to pray? Dear Jesus, I thank you for today. I thank you for this wonderful time I've been able to spend with these kids online, Lord. I pray a special blessing over them as they continue to dig into your word and they stay focused on you. I pray that you would just be with them in their devotional time this week, Lord, and that you would help them focus on their homework and on cleaning and all the things that are hard for them, Lord. Help them to focus on everything you called them to do, which includes all that cleaning, because we're supposed to do all that stuff onto you, as if you asked us to do that, Lord. And I pray a special blessing over each and every family watching this. Bring us all back safely next week so we can talk more about you and spend time with you. We thank you, Jesus. Amen. Thanks so much for joining us. Can't wait till next week. See you then. Bye!
I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make it happen. Whatever it takes, I'm gonna give it my all. Eliminate all distractions. Every day